Hi, welcome back to another video, to the mid-monthly wrap-up of the month, which only consists of 3 books, but I've learned from my mistakes. Last month I have not done a mid-monthly wrap-up, although I had read like 3 books or 2 books even, and I thought to myself like, no, that's too little books, I will do it at the end of the month. And at the end of the month I got overwhelmed by the amount of books that I read, so I ended up not wrapping up any of them. But it doesn't matter, right? So I'm gonna start with The Temple House Vanishing by Rachel Donohue, which is essentially a story about a student and a teacher who have vanished at some point from the Temple House, which is a Catholic boarding school, and it's suggested that the two of them have had a romantic relationship and ran off together. And the story is told through 2 POVs, which is the journalist, who is, I think, about 10 years after the vanishing, investigating into the circumstances of the vanishing, and then Louise, who is the 16-year-old girl that apparently ran off with a teacher. And throughout the story we're getting told all the circumstances that led up to them both disappearing. I have talked about this in my vlog, so I'm gonna like keep it very short, but the book is quite tragic in my opinion, and I'd like to say that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you at some point in your life have been a 16-year-old girl, or at least felt the tendency to dramatize and romanticize tragedy, like maybe this will hit your sweet spot as well as it did mine. It hit me quite unexpectedly, as did the other book that I was reading so far this month, but I have to admit that at first I thought the writing to be somewhat pretentious, like the way that Louise found so many grand and special meanings in just very mundane actions felt a bit juvenile to me at first. And hadn't there been a POV from a grown person, like the journalist, I would have thought that this was just very juvenile writing. But now I came to the conclusion, since I thought this to be only apparent whenever we were in Louise's head, that this was done with purpose. So this is why, in the end, I thought the book to be actually somewhat very well written, as opposed to what I thought in the beginning. Then, as the book for this monthly challenge of the Buzzwordathon, I read Heinz Strong's, and this is really translated, I Always Have Such a Good Time With You. This is about a man in his mid-40s who used to be a musician and now has a recording studio and is in a relationship and somewhat happy, but then one day he meets this young actress who is beautiful, and he just falls for her. When I first outlined the plot, I remember a comment from Mason being like, it is so untypical for you to pick up a romance, it doesn't seem to fit. But the thing is, this is, in my opinion, not a romance. You can categorize it as one, and from the outside it kind of fits the criteria. But to me, this is a much more deeper observation of human relationships, especially human relationships between 2 people who are struggling from mental health illnesses, or at least who have a lot of baggage with them and bring that into the relationship. So to me, this book is not a love story, it's a struggle. It's a downward spiral into a toxic relationship. Both of the main characters were broken individuals who went into a relationship with another person who was broken as well, so that they could stop focusing on their own deficiencies and blame the other person for being the reason for why they are unhappy. The writing style of this is, I want to say, very German. The writing, the way the story is told, the problems that are dealt with, I couldn't describe it in any other way. So if you know, you probably know. And it's so fun to me because I think from the first 3 descriptive words of this book on Goodreads, The first one is German literature, then it's fiction, and then it's Germany. And it's like, what the fuck is that kind of description for a book? Have you ever heard of a description for a book that said just a country? Like Germany? What the hell? I guess that somehow says a lot, doesn't it? And the last book I read so far this month is Osamu Dazai's The Setting Sun, which is a Japanese classic. This is set in the post-war period in Japan, and the atmosphere of the time period is used as a background for the story of a minor aristocratic family who is struggling because they are devoid of their purpose in society. I know that Dazai came from an aristocratic family, so I believe that there are some autobiographical notions to be found in the book. And apparently right before writing this, he had read The Cherry Orchard by the Russian writer Anton Chekhov, which is about the demise of the Russian aristocracy, and he thought after reading it that he would write his own work concerning this topic from the Japanese perspective. In the book, you follow Kazuko's narration, who is witnessing the decline of her mother's health, whom she lives with, while struggling massively with her financial situation. I will say that in order to better understand this book and the topics that it talks about, you need to have some information and background knowledge about Japanese history, especially with aristocracy and the post-war time period. Also, I think it wouldn't be bad to know a bit about religious symbols, about the Western influence in Japan at the time, and Dazai's life to a certain extent. I will be very honest here and say that upon reading it, many things just went straight over my head because I didn't have these informations. But after I finished this, I found a video about it on the Artists and Geeks channel. So Seiji essentially made a video and talked about this while doing her own research, and she doesn't spoil anything, so I thought it would be a good idea to link this video down below. So if you would like to know more about the historical context and gain an overview on possibly good to know information about the book, I would highly recommend checking out Seiji's video. And by the way, there is also no rating that I could give you here. I ended up not rating this book because I was, first of all, reading it from a Western perspective. Second of all, not being informed about the backgrounds at all, so I didn't feel entitled or knowledgeable enough to give a star rating. Also, I don't think that this book deserves a star rating. It doesn't fit a rating system. But lately I've been struggling with rating books overall and in general, so I'm really okay with not having a rating, and maybe I will continue rating less and less books in the future. But this is a conversation to have on another day. For now, I will just say thank you so much for watching if you did, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you at another time in another video.